I'm Dave.
And I'm Rob.
And welcome to episode 35 of The Listmakers, our Doctor Who show spin-off podcast where, as the title suggests, we make some lists. How are you, Rob?
Dave, doing very well.
Excellent. Our topic tonight comes from one of our listeners. We always love it when we get listener topics. Please do send them in via email or social media. This is from Peter in Retford, and it is Top 5 Classic Doctor Who, where episode 1 is excellent, but it goes sadly downhill after that.
Yeah, thank you for this topic, Peter. It took a lot of thought.
Yeah, when we first read this topic out last month, I thought, this won't be hard.
Yeah.
It was hard. Rob, we'll crack into it. We'll make our lists. It's your turn to go first. But before we do, a bold prediction from me. Mm-hmm. I'm predicting no snaps this episode.
None.
Ooh,
that's very bold.
It is very bold. We'll see if I'm right. Why don't you make your list?
All right, Dave. In at number 5, I'm going with An Unearthly Child. And I'm putting this here at number 5 just to get it out of the way because I know I'm saying this in the face of fans who'll go into bat for the 3 other episodes, the Tribe of Gum episodes, and they'll say, now hang on a minute, this story's fine, Irwin, you're an imbecile. But I think between it being such a jarring change from the first episode to the next 3 in terms of the story, and the fact a lot of fans do write off the other 3 episodes as not being very good, and it's the literal granddaddy of the entire series, I just think it needs to be noted here by at least one of us, Dave, that in the view of many people, including myself, An Unearthly Child is a great first episode that then goes downhill. I think many people, Dave, wish the TARDIS went straight from Coal Hill to Skaro.
Okay.
In at number 4, I've got Time Flight. And I might get some flack for this one too. But I encourage people to stick it on and watch it. We've got the aftermath of the death of Adric. We've got location filming inside Heathrow that looks quite good. We've got Davo grabbing the newspaper and looking up the cricket scores, being super doctorish. We've got the TARDIS team arrested and their unit credentials actually work for a change. We've got a mission to go on. We're going to do some science in Concorde. We're actually on Concorde. It's a real Concorde. There's the goofy gag with Davo sliding into the TARDIS on his back. All of this is going on, and I'm like, wow, this first episode's quite okay. It's only in the last couple of minutes that we see a dodgy model shot, and then Anthony Ainley starts doing whatever it is he's doing. But none of that kills the first episode. The first episode is solid. It falls apart in the next few episodes.
Okay.
In at number 3, I've got Mark of the Rani. A slight cheat here, Dave. Well, not really. I'm going with the 25-minute episode version of this, as was shown in, and I looked this up, the USA, Canada, Germany, the United Arab Emirates, and of course here in Australia and New Zealand. And in that first 25 minutes, we have the location filming, we've got the experiments turning the workers mad, we've got the Industrial Revolution, we've got Luddites, we've got the Master lurking around to the extent that we think, well, this is a Master story. You know, the Master comes along, he blows away a dog, he shoots some blokes, all sorts of good stuff. But from there on, Dave, it's all brain fluid and dinosaur embryos and people being turned into trees, and it goes a bit off the tracks. No one calls this a great story of the Colin Baker era, yet I'm here to say the first episode, the first 25 minutes at least, is absolutely on point and has you really hooked into the story, so I couldn't resist mentioning it here. In at number 2, I've got Underworld. And I think this is a really good example. All the backstory reveals in the first episode, the Time Lords, they helped the Minions, and they were regarded as gods before the Minions booted them out, and the Time Lords turned non-interventionist. All this great backstory, and the way it's told by intercutting between the Minions detecting the sound of a TARDIS, and the Doctor elsewhere on the ship telling Leela this story. Then we learn the Minions can even regenerate their bodies, although not quite like the Time Lords. All of this is great, Dave. A fabulous cliffhanger too, with the ship attracting all the bits of rock and it's starting to become the core of a planet. And I'll say this, while the rest of the story is almost universally regarded as crap, and it is crap, the idea behind the whole story is really quite interesting. It's just done very, very badly on screen. But the first episode, I think, is fabulous.
Fair enough. And your number 1, Rob?
In at number 1, Dave, I've got The Web Planet. And I get some people say, oh my God, that's so slow. How can you say that's good? But I actually really like the first episode here. You know, although some Zabi creep around from time to time, it's largely just the Doctor, Ian, Barbara, Vicky having weird experiences. You know, Vicky's hearing things. The Doctor and Ian find all sorts of stuff outside the TARDIS. Barbara loses control of her arm and then her whole body. The whole thing is weird and it's creepy. It's a great episode to watch, actually, if you like this crew and you just want to see extended scenes of them interacting with each other. So compared to what it turns into, you know, something regarded as one of the worst Doctor Who stories of all time, especially from the classic era, I think the first episode really stands out as being okay in comparison to the rest of it.
There we go.
And before you jump in, I do want to say this is an interesting topic to unravel, because do you pick a dog in general with the story, but where the first episode is good in comparison? Or do you pick a story where the first episode is regarded as a dead set classic, regardless of the rest, but then you feel it's let down by what comes after? I think there are two ways to sort of tackle this, and I had both examples in my list.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I didn't quite take either approach. I just went with my gut.
Okay.
I went through the list of stories. I wrote a short list of about 10, and then I've just gone, what is my gut telling me should be on this list? And that's the list I have, so I'll dive in. At number 5, I have not copied you, Rob, but I have used a similar cheat to you, because I'm going with Time Lash Part 1, the 25-minute version.
No, really?
Part 1.
Great.
Which, for viewers who have only seen the 2-part version, I'm fairly confident the cliffhanger for the 25-minute one is where the TARDIS emerges up the time lash and the Borrow does that. It seems the Doctor is paying us a return visit. Whee! Yeah. So that was it. And look, I have long said that I think the first half of Time Lash is a lot better than the second, and I think the first quarter is certainly the best work. You set up a authoritarian, sort of dystopian type society. You get some intrigue going on. You get some brutality. You get the Time Lash concept introduced, and the concept is a good concept. You get all the stuff about the Malin having to transfer power away from the hospital where his wife is, and conspiracies and all that sort of thing. There's some intrigue going on. You get Paul Darrow introduced. You get a little bit of murder on the dance floor. And I just sort of feel like there's a real build-up. After that, you then get puppet Mandrills, and you get the neck on a stick attacking Perry. And once Paul Darrow's dead, there's nothing to watch in the last quarter. So I actually do think that Time Lash Part 1 does stand up.
Nice.
Perhaps my most controversial one here on the list, Rob, but I said I'd go with my gut. Number 4, I have Ghostlight. Every time I watch Ghostlight, every single time, I watch Part 1 and I think, I am underselling this story. That was fantastic. It was spooky. It was intriguing. It's got a great guest cast. Everything's going on. I'm here for Part 2. And about 10 minutes into Part 2, I'm just going, what has happened? I don't know what's going on. Why have all these actors suddenly started going just a little bit too over the top? Why is that happened? What's going? And then by Part 3, I'm just, so he wants to kill the Queen of England. What? And I just think that it is not a case of a great Part 1 and a terrible Parts 2 and 3, but I don't think it quite lands the level of tension and intrigue that it sets up.
I can see that completely.
Number 3, I've gone for The Nightmare of Eden.
Ah, fair, yep.
We get 2 ships crashing into each other in hyperspace, one ship eating another. We get strange, creepy growls from the shadows and somebody who's been lacerated to death by great big claws. We get this concept of the CET machine, something that literally has on crystals inside and whole ecosystems just presented there, and all this stuff's going on. There could be drug smugglers. So many great plot ideas, some great Tom Baker lines. It's entertaining, it's intriguing. I can remember seeing this for the first time at the age of about 11 or 12 and being utterly stunned by how good this setup was and how many cool ideas there were. We're on cool big spaceships. Rob, you know I like a big spaceship with gleaming metal and flashing lights. Then you see the Mandrills and then you see the effects and then the actors just decide to start taking the piss and it all falls apart. It is an utter mess, but God, that first episode is actually pretty exciting.
Great call.
Number 2 is, in fact, a second Doctor story, appropriately, and that is The Dominators.
Interesting. Okay.
Once again, you have this great setup. You have these aliens who arrive right in that first scene. The aliens are there, they're menacing, they're dominators, they look pretty scary, they've got quarks, they can obliterate things, they do proper, like the graphics of the quark deaths in that first episode are pretty shocking. You've got the great TARDIS crew of the Dr. Jamie and Zoe arriving. They explore, you've got the test island going on. It's all very interesting, it's all very intriguing. At the cliffhanger, you see the quarks, that's interesting. And again, it's not a classic, but there's some really interesting stuff set up. There's a good adventure going on. It all goes downhill from there. Once you get to the Dulcian capital, I'm on the side of the Dominators and want to wipe out the Dulcians just as much as they do. It's boring. There's lots of just, we'll stop the drilling. Oh, they're drilling. Oh, we'll stop the drilling. We're drilling again. Let's go back to the capital. Let's go back. It just sort of falls apart, but the opening is actually pretty cool.
Cool.
No snaps so far, Rob.
No, there's not.
Number 1.
Yeah.
The Web Planet.
Snap!
Snap and positional snap as well.
Yes.
We both have the same number 1. That is a very rare snap.
Yeah.
I picked it for exactly the same reasons you did.
Really?
I have really strong memories of having this on audio cassette, having borrowed it from the local club's audio library, and lying there in my bed, listening to part 1 of The Web Planet, and just being absolutely amazed by what was going on. And when I saw the VHS copy probably a few years after that, again, I was just amazed by this world. It looked alien. It was a little bit creepy. You had the Zabi, which were cool. You had this web thing that was cool. You had all the stuff with the pools of acid. There's this time taken to really explore a strange new world. And it just absolutely grips me every time I watch it.
Yeah.
And then, look, whilst I don't hate The Web Planet, it does get very slow, and the ending is very, very tedious. So it does sort of fall apart. But that exploration of a strange new world is one of the things I love about 60s Doctor Who. So I absolutely think it's a great part 1 that is then let down. That is my list.
It also has one of the greatest examples of Hartnell as Yoda you can ever hope to find. When he first goes outside the TARDIS, he's doing his,
Echoes, dear boy, echoes. Yeah, it's great.
He's loving it. Dave, before we go on, I did have some runners-up from the modern series. I was pondering Extremis for this list, thinking about how Pyramid at the End of the World and Lie of the Land went downhill in my memory, for sure, but I just didn't want to watch 3 episodes of Capaldi just to prove a point. So I didn't watch it. And also another Capaldi story, Under the Lake and Before the Flood. I remember Under the Lake being amazing and having that cliffhanger at the end where the Doctor's like a ghost with blank eyes. And it's like, where is this going to go? And then the second episode just went off in a completely different direction. And I remember feeling very let down by it. But again, I didn't rewatch it, so I didn't put it in my list. But they were sort of in my head as well, a couple of Capaldi episodes.
Yeah, I did give the new series list a bit of a look through because I thought, let's just chuck a couple of new ones in to discuss. And I really found it difficult to really, really call some things a part 1 and a part 2. And that makes it tough. I think Extremis is actually a pretty good call. Depending on how you classify some of those Capaldi episodes, like Heaven Sent, I think is a fantastic, wonderful classic episode. Hellbent's a bit of a disappointment. Are they really a part 1 and a part 2? Or is Face the Raven part 1 of a 3-parter there?
Yeah, you can argue it either way.
You can argue it either way. I had a couple of runners-up from the classic. I had The Claws of Axos.
Yeah.
I had Terminus.
Yeah.
And I had The Reign of Terror.
Yeah, that's very fair.
I also had Time Flight, which made your list.
Yeah, I actually popped it back on and rewatched it for the purpose of this episode. And I was loving like the film footage of them in the Heathrow terminal and outside the terminal and all of that. And I love how the Doctor's unit credentials work. He gives them the details and then they're like, oh yeah, you're this guy, come on in, join the adventure. It's like, oh yeah, this is a great story so far. But it just, oh my God, well we all know it implodes.
Yeah, so I was having a similar thought process to you, and I was very, very tempted to put it on my list. But then I thought, well, all the stuff with the Doctor on Concord is awesome. It goes downhill when they reach Jurassic England.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that happens in part one, and there was just enough sort of wandering around that very empty set with one rock that that was in part one that I thought, no, part one does it goes downhill before the cliffhanger, so can't quite do it. But we were thinking very similar there. I fully expected you to have an unearthly child, and look, I've got to say, Rob, I do believe you. I agree. The other episodes are fine, Erwin, you're an imbecile. I think that's the case, but I get where you're coming from. Underworld, I actually think part one's a bit rubbish as well. I get that it looks better than the other three, but that's because they look absolutely terrible.
Does it not intrigue you, though, when they start throwing... Like in other Tom Baker stories, we get backstory about the Time Lords, like fighting the great vampires and stuff in State of Decay. And in this, we get the whole reason why the Time Lords turned non-interventionist. I find it fascinating to think about. To me, it's like mentioning the Clone Wars in A New Hope of Star Wars. You know, it just sparks all these ideas in your imagination.
I think that concept is a very cool concept. But when I watch Underworld Part 1, I just see a lot of actors acting in very strange ways. And I mean, it literally opens with somebody dying of boredom. And I think that just sets up the episode very badly.
That is unfortunate. Before we started my list, I talked about, having sort of two choices. Do you pick a story that's a dog where the first episode's good, or do you pick a story where the first episode is truly regarded as genius? And I'll just mention that the two I was thinking of in particular on my list were Unearthly Child. Everyone regards that first episode as genius, no matter what happens afterwards. And I think the flip side of that is probably The Web Planet, where I'm picking a story that's regarded as just horrible. And I'm saying, yes, but in comparison, the first episode is actually pretty good. So they're the sort of two extremes for me.
Yeah, and I think it also does highlight that one of the great things about Doctor Who is that ability to go anywhere in time and space. And you can arrive somewhere as a writer, land the TARDIS there, create a strange concept, a strange planet, a strange situation, and really sort of revel in that. But at some point you have to have a plot. And at some point you have to resolve that plot. And that's, if anything, significantly harder.
It's even the case. I'm reading a new series adventure novel at the moment from the Tennant era. And it starts off with an interesting premise, but then it falls off a cliff. Because I think they've had the big idea, but what are they going to do with it? They got nothing.
Absolutely. And there's a number of those docos out there where you hear people like Terrance Dicks talking about, well, this person came to me with this great idea. And I said, that's a great idea. What happens next? And they've looked at me and gone, I don't know. And and I think that is the case sometimes. Interestingly, I just want to say, an incredibly even spread across the classic series. We've got something from every Doctor apart from Pertwee, I think.
That's true. Yeah.
So this wasn't one where we've picked on the JNT era. It wasn't one we've picked on the 60s. It was actually pretty even.
Not bad, Dave. Not bad.
And maybe Terrance Dicks did know what he was talking about when he told those writers, go away and get me an ending before you bring this back.
I think he did.
I think he did. That was really fun. We thought about some really good stories. But, Rob, we are reaching our time mark.
Yes.
I will therefore reach into Turlo's hat of Rassilon and drag out a topic. Rob, next month we are talking about top 5 tear-jerker moments in Doctor Who.
Oh, golly. Okay.
We'll be talking all about Da Feels, Rob.
Yeah, which isn't just confined to New Who.
Oh no! The first places my mind went when I picked that up. My Rorschach's test went straight to classic.
I bet I know where it went to as well.
Yeah. Okay.
It's Pertwee era.
Probably yes.
Knew it.
Probably yes. You know what, Rob?
What's that?
We didn't mention the Space Museum.
We didn't.
I reckon a lot of listeners will have bet one of us would come up with the Space Museum. I didn't, because I think the whole of the Space Museum is rubbish.
There you go.
There you go. All right, we've talked about that. Next month we'll be back with top 5 tear-jerker moments. As always, give us feedback. Let us know what you think we missed, what you agreed with. We'd love to have these interactions with you, particularly on social media. But until next time, I've been Dave.
And I've been Rob.
And we'll make some more lists next month.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.